Welcome to Revise and Resubmit, the podcast where we cut through the clutter and get to the heart of groundbreaking research. I'm Pavlov, and I'm joined today by Nikita. We're going to dive into a fascinating paper about what really drives innovation in companies.
It's great to be here, Pavlov. I was immediately drawn to this study because it goes beyond the usual feel-good advice about fostering a culture of innovation and offers some concrete insights into how companies can actually achieve it.
So let's talk about where this research is coming from. The paper we're diving into today is titled Effects of Organizational Innovative Climate Within Organizations, the Roles of Managers' Proactive Goal Regulation and External Environments. And just to give you an idea of the caliber of this research, it's published in Research Policy and FT50 Journal, kind of a big deal in the academic world.
Absolutely. Being featured in an FT50 journal means this paper has gone through rigorous review and is considered top-tier research in its field. It adds a lot of weight to the findings.
And the lead author, Tae-Yeol Kim, from the China-Europe International Business School, brings a global perspective to the table. So what's the core problem these researchers are tackling?
Well, they're looking at the disconnect many companies face. You see, almost every company wants to be seen as innovative, right? But simply saying you're innovative doesn't make it so.
Just like hanging a mission innovation poster in the office and expecting everyone to suddenly become Edison.
Exactly. The study authors recognize that there's a missing link between a company's stated commitment to innovation and its employees actually being innovative. And that's where their research comes in. They propose a really interesting model to explain how a company's innovation climate actually translates into employee behavior.
Okay, let's unpack this model. What's the main idea here?
The researchers are focusing on the role of managers. They argue that a company's innovation climate doesn't directly impact employees. Instead, it flows through managers who act as a sort of catalyst.
So it's not a simple top-down effect where the CEO says, be innovative, and suddenly everyone's coming up with brilliant new ideas.
Right. This model is more nuanced. It suggests that the company's overall environment influences managers first. And then those managers, in turn, shape the environment for their teams and individual employees, ultimately influencing their innovative behavior.
So managers are like the crucial middle layer in this whole process.
Exactly. And the study introduces this concept called proactive goal regulation to describe the type of manager who thrives in an innovative climate. Think of these managers as innovation catalysts. They don't wait for orders, they make things happen.
I like that. So instead of just following instructions, these managers are actively involved in identifying opportunities, setting goals, and figuring out how to achieve them. It's almost like they're mini entrepreneurs within the company.
That's a great way to put it. They're not just managing tasks, they're actively shaping and driving innovation within their teams. And the study found that the company's innovative climate has a particularly strong impact on this kind of managerial proactiveness when the company operates in a very competitive market.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you're in a cutthroat industry where your survival depends on staying ahead of the curve, you're going to be much more receptive to anything that gives you a competitive edge.
Exactly. When the stakes are high, the entire team, especially managers, become more focused on innovation because it's directly linked to their own success and the company's survival.
So a little healthy competition can actually be a good thing when it comes to sparking innovation.
Now, here's where the research gets really interesting. They also looked at the effect of general environmental uncertainty. Think economic instability, unpredictable market shifts, that kind of thing. And surprisingly, they found that this type of uncertainty didn't have the same boosting effect on innovation.
That's counterintuitive. You'd think that in uncertain times, people would be even more driven to innovate and find new solutions, right?
Yeah.
You would. But the researchers suggest that in highly uncertain environments, it might be difficult for managers to even conceptualize goals, let alone plan and strive to achieve them. It's like trying to build a house on shifting sand. You don't know where to start because the ground keeps changing beneath you.
So even if a company encourages innovation, if the future feels too chaotic, managers might struggle to figure out what direction to go in.
Precisely. But let's delve a bit deeper into this proactive goal regulation idea. They break it down into two key components: proactive goal generation and proactive goal striving.
All right, I'm ready to unpack those. What exactly do those terms mean?
Well, proactive goal generation is all about that initial spark of an idea. It's the envisioning and planning stage where managers identify new possibilities and develop a plan to pursue them.
So it's about brainstorming, strategizing, and mapping out a potential path forward. basically all about those aha moments and turning them into concrete plans.
Exactly. And then you have proactive goal striving, which is all about taking those plans and actually putting them into action. This is where the rubber meets the road. It involves taking concrete steps, navigating challenges, and then reflecting on what worked and what didn't.
It's about being both bold and strategic, taking those innovative leaps, but also being smart and adaptable throughout the process.
Right. And remember how we were talking about the impact of competitive intensity and general uncertainty? Well, the researchers did some additional analysis and found that competitive intensity mainly impacted the goal-striving component, while an uncertain environment actually affected the goal generation part. So much to unpack here.
I'm with you, Nikita. My mind is racing with all these ideas. We've learned that a company's innovation climate is crucial, but it works through managers, not directly on employees. And those managers need to be proactive, not just passive followers. But it seems the competitive environment might be the secret ingredient to really igniting that process.
You've got it. And to really understand how these ideas play out, we need to dig into the research itself.
Let's do it. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore the specifics of their research methods and what their findings actually reveal. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Revise and Resubmit. Before the break, we were starting to get a handle on this really interesting model of innovation. Now I'm curious to know how the researchers actually tested their ideas in the real world. What kind of data did they gather, and how did they do it?
Well, they went beyond a simple survey or two. This was a pretty rigorous study involving a three-wave multi-source survey design. What that means is they collected data at 3 different points in time, and they got input from various levels within each company.
That sounds pretty thorough. What exactly does it mean to have data from multiple sources?
They worked with 93 different organizations across a range of industries. And for each company, they got data from senior executives, middle managers, and individual employees.
So they really captured a 360-degree view of how innovation was playing out at all levels of the company.
Precisely. And they measured key factors like the company's overall climate for innovation, those proactive behaviors we were talking about in managers, and ultimately the employees' innovative behavior.
So they could see how those different pieces of the puzzle fit together.
Right. And by collecting this data over 3 different time periods, they could start to untangle whether a company's innovation climate was actually causing changes in manager behavior and employee innovation, or if it was just a coincidence.
Okay, so what did they actually find after crunching all that data? Did their model hold up?
They found some pretty compelling evidence to support their theory. First, they saw a clear link between a company's overall innovative climate and the level of innovative behavior among its employees.
That makes intuitive sense, but I'm guessing it's not quite as straightforward as it sounds.
You're right. It's not just a direct connection. Remember those proactive managers? Well, the study showed that the link between the company's environment and employee innovation was largely driven by those managers.
It all comes back to the managers.
It really does. The company's overall climate seems to influence the managers. And then those managers, in turn, create a more innovative environment for their teams, leading to more innovative behaviors from their employees.
And if we remember that finding about competitive intensity, it makes you wonder if those proactive managers are even more important in a high-stakes environment.
That's exactly what they found. When a company operates in a highly competitive market, the link between the company's innovation climate and those proactive manager behaviors was even stronger.
When the pressure is on, those managers really step up and drive innovation.
And remember how general uncertainty had kind of a surprising effect? They also dug into that further. It turns out that while general uncertainty didn't seem to impact those managers who were already good at the doing part of innovation.
You mean like taking action and actually pushing those innovative projects forward?
Exactly. But it did seem to make it harder for those managers to come up with those initial innovative goals in the first place. That goal generation piece we were talking about earlier.
So it's like they can execute a plan, but the uncertainty makes it tougher to even come up with a plan in the first place.
Right. And their analysis got even more interesting when they looked at the combined effects of both competitive intensity and uncertainty. The strongest link between company climate and proactive managers emerged when there was high competitive intensity but low uncertainty.
It's like finding that sweet spot for innovation. A bit of competitive pressure to light a fire under everyone, but not so much uncertainty that people feel lost at sea.
That's a great way to put it. So we've seen the theory, we've seen the data, but I'm sure our listeners are wondering, what's the takeaway here?
That's a great point. We've gone pretty deep into the research itself, but let's shift gears and discuss what all of this means for our listeners and how they can apply these findings to their own work and careers. All right, so we've dug into this research pretty deeply. I've uncovered some interesting findings. But as always, the big question is, so what? How can our listeners actually use this information, make a difference in their own companies and careers?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's one thing to understand the research, but the real value comes from applying those insights to real-world situations.
Exactly. So let's connect the dots for our listeners. If you're in a company that's striving for innovation, what's the key takeaway from this study?
The main message here is that simply creating a fun, relaxed environment and talking about the importance of innovation isn't enough. You can't just install a ping pong table and expect groundbreaking ideas to magically appear.
So those company retreats with trust falls and brainstorming sessions might not be the most effective strategy.
They might be part of the equation, but this research highlights the critical role of managers. It's about empowering them to be proactive, to really own the innovation process within their teams.
So it's not just about having managers who can execute a plan. It's about cultivating managers who can envision new possibilities, set ambitious goals, and then figure out how to achieve them.
That's right. Think of it as shifting from a culture of follow the rules to a culture of make things happen.
And it sounds like companies need to strike a balance when it comes to the environment they create. A bit of healthy competition can be a great motivator, but too much uncertainty can actually stifle those innovative sparks.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment where people feel challenged and driven to succeed, but also supported and empowered to take risks.
Now here's something this study didn't address directly, but I think it's a crucial point for our listeners. How do companies actually develop these proactive, innovative managers? It's one thing to say we need them, but how do we actually cultivate those skills and mindsets?
That's a fantastic question, and one that deserves further exploration. It's like they've given us the blueprint for an amazing innovation engine, but they haven't provided the instruction manual for building it.
I love that analogy. So listeners, we're leaving you with a challenge. How can you contribute to creating a culture of proactive managers within your own organizations? What kind of training development programs or even just changes in mindset would help cultivate these essential skills?
It's something for all of us to think about and experiment with. Perhaps in a future episode, we can even do a deep dive into the best strategies for developing proactive, innovative leaders.
That's a fantastic idea. But for now, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of innovation. Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery.
And as always, remember to keep revising and resubmitting your own thinking. The world of knowledge is constantly evolving, and so should we.
If you enjoy this episode of Revise and Resubmit, please subscribe to our channel on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating. It really helps other curious minds like yours find the show.
And be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into fascinating research that can help you level up your thinking. Until then, happy exploring.